So let's talk about some JavaScript fundamentals. What are the different data types in JavaScript? What are like the main ones?
You got a string, an array, object.
Okay, so I've got a string. So a string, there's a few ways we can write a string. We can do double quotes, string 1. We can do single quotes, string 2. And we can, what's the third way we can do a string?
Backticks.
Backticks. Backticks. So these are strings. So what are the strings used for, or the backticks used for?
Temporal or
Interpolation.
Yep, interpolation. So interpolation, which allows us to inject JavaScript into a string. All right. There's also numbers. So we have like whole numbers like 55. And we also have like floating point numbers like 3.14, which is pi. Cool. So whole number or integers. And then floating point integers. All right.
You didn't mean to say floating point integers.
What's that? All right. All right, we have Booleans. What are Booleans?
True, false statements.
True, false. All right. What else do we have? We have undefined. What is undefined?
There's no value associated with it.
Well, more to the
Well,
point, the
yeah.
variable has not been defined yet.
Yep, the value hasn't yet been defined.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And
Well,
then there's
you can have null with no value.
null. Explicit, like null is explicitly this value has no value. That's the difference between, so undefined is like, hey, this hasn't yet been defined yet, where null, where the value of this is undefined, where null explicitly says, hey, this doesn't have any value. And the value is not undefined because it's null. There is explicitly no value to it. We have arrays. So let like numbers is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We can access specific indexes, the values. So yeah, we can access the specific values of the array by its index. So if I wanted to console log grab the third value here, I can do numbers followed by 2, which is the index. So it starts at 0, 1, 2. And if I just comment that out and console node example, I can get 3. You can also store like strings in here. You can store arrays of arrays. So 1, 2. You can store objects, which key value. Speaking of objects, what is an object?
key value pairs.
Yep. So an object is like let user equal, so key, like it's called object. It's also called a dictionary as well if you're talking about Python. Different languages call the same things different thing, or call the same data types different names. So typically in JavaScript, this is called an object. However, in Python, it could be called a dictionary or a hash. But so name, like Tom. Whoop, not transform. Age. 35. All right. So how do I access key values in an object? So if I wanted to access the top, if I wanted to access the name's value,
You can either access it with brackets or a dot.
so it's bracket notation. So this is called bracket notation. And there's also dot notation, as you said. Dot. So if I node example, I can see Tom, I can grab those there. Or age. Like so. What's the preferred method?
Bracket notation,
Why is that?
because you can mess it up with, if it's with, variables.
Yep. So if I had like let some key equal name and make this dynamic. If I wanted to access some key here, and let's actually comment that out. If I run that, it says undefined because it doesn't know what some key is because it's literally looking for the key on the user object of some key. Whereas in bracket notation, I can work with variables in here. I can write some key. If I come down here and clear it, I can access the values right there.
Also, doesn't bracket notation let you have like weird key names where they're like multiple words or strings?
Yeah. Yeah. So you can have like, if I had a key, it says this weird key name.
You got it spelled right the first time.
What's that?
Weird is weird spelling. You did it right.
Oh, yeah.
the first time.
Thank you. And I had that as a key. I can access that. Let's talk about variables. Variables. So what are the 3 ways I can declare a variable?
Let constant.
Let age goes like 25. I can do var age equals 25. And what was it? Const? So what is the difference between all of these? So what's the difference between let and var?
I believe let can be redefined, but var gets hosted to the top of the function, right? Hoisted, or does that have anything to do with hoisting?
That's a good question. I don't know off the top of my head if it does.
One was local, one was global.
Yeah, like I think you're right, Kyle, in that like var is global, and so it'll be accessible outside the function. Let would only be accessible during the function call.
Or I think it's only inside a function. You can access it.
So yeah, so
I'm checking.
this would be global scope. I would also say if you already declare let, so hold on, let's do this. Let's actually run this. Comment this stuff out. If I say, hey, age is 25, but somewhere else in my program, I do var age equals, 35. If I run this, clear. it's 35. So I'm able to overwrite or redeclare the variable using var. Whereas let, if I do let age and then let age equals 35, I'm going to come down here and run that. It says, hey, syntax error, identifier age has already been declared. So it doesn't allow me to redeclare a variable name. What about const? What is const?
It indicates we don't intend to change the value, and in a perfect world, it wouldn't let us.
Yep. So age, or I'll do pi. Pi is, and if I'm like, you know what, I actually want to change the value of pi to 3.15. And if I clear and if I run that, it says assignment to constant variable. Hey, it's like, hey, you can't reassign or the value of pi because it's a constant. It should not, the value should never change no matter what. In Python, it's a little different. Allows you to. We kind of talked about string interpolation. So if I do let first name equals Tom, last name, if I wanted a console log, my first name and last name, I do first name space last name. Great. And if I clear that and run that code, I get Tom Preet. We can add numbers together. 1 plus, I'll actually do console log. 1 plus 2. We can do all the math, arithmetic, multiply, divide. Is there a way we can do the exponent?
Yeah, you use two asterisks.
2 asterisks to the exponent. So 2 to the power of 2 or 2 to the power of 3. What does what is the percent sign? What is that?
That's the modulus.
I'm sorry, I heard a couple people. What's that called?
Modulus.
And what does it return?
The remainder.
So it returns the remainder. So for modulus 2, what would that return?
2.
0.
0.
Yep, 0. Yep. So if I did like 2 modulus 1, what would that return?
4.
0. What if 4 modulus 3?
1.
Yep. Cool. Yep. So that returns remainder. It's good to know that. We also have 2 equals or 3 equals 3. What does this return?
True.
True.
True. All right. What does 3 equals 3 return?
False.
No, also.
No,
It's
that's
still true because it's not strict.
So it's true. So that's the double. So the value is 3, same. The value is 3, but it's not strict. So if I wanted to make that strict by value and type, it's the 3. So if I clear that, so this is now false.
Is that second example an example of coercion in JavaScript?
I do not know.
Okay.
I believe
know
it
it-
is.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah, not quite sure.
My favorite is if A equals B in an if statement with a single equal sign.
Oh. All right, so we have equals, we have not equals, so 1 does not equal 4. What was this? What would this be?
True.
True. So if not equals, we have greater than, we have greater than or is equal to, we have less than or equal to. Yeah, so we have less than or equal to. What about constant log 1 equals 1 and for modulus 2 equals 0. What is this?
True.
True.
So the and statements, both sides have to be true. So this has to be true and this has to be true for the entire statement to be true.
Hey, Tom, quick question here. Are you able to do like a question mark? Oh, I'm sorry, an exclamation point less than, or like a not greater than?
Not greater than, like something like that?
Yes.
No.
Just use less than equal.
Yeah. So we,
But not before it, right? Like not the word before the expression.
not
No, before the one,
like not 1.
not one less than 4.
I've never seen that done before in JavaScript. I don't think that works. It might work in Python. But
You could put a not and then put the expression.
like that. Yeah, not 1, something like that.
And then put 1 greater than 4 in parentheses.
So that'd be the opposite of whatever this returned. So yeah, let's talk about that. So we have and statements. So both sides of this has to be true. This side has to be true. And this side has to be true. The double pipe is an or statement. So 1 equals 1 is true, or 4 modulus 2 equals 1 has to be true. And then the whole statement is true. So what would this return if I ran this code right now? What's the value of this?
They're both true.
They're both true. All right. So if I made that 1, then it'd be false and true. Because both sides have to be true here, which this part is false. So therefore the whole entire statement is false. If I
Kind of a basic question. With the semicolon, I know it's supposed to end statements. What was because I don't see any, I don't think I've seen any issue with not including them.
yeah, like right here, like right there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is there any time that would cause an issue?
no, but it's whatever coding standards, whatever. I would get comfortable with adding semicolons there. It's just a good habit to get into. Because wherever you go to work, more likely than not, they're probably working in they probably have older JavaScript and they've already conformed to that standard to have the semicolon. So, but it won't cause any issues.
So yeah, so JavaScript, they automatically add semicolons in for you. So technically you do need them, but again, JavaScript will automatically add them in for you. As Tom said, for the most part, it's okay if you leave them off. There are a few select cases where they can matter. The one that I know off the top of my head is if you have a function and you have a return statement, and that return statement, you add a new line after it, it's not actually going to capture what's after that return statement. So I know it's a mouthful what I just said. You'll see it in React sometimes, but so usually to get around that, you could add like a return and add parentheses. But if you do return and then have a new line and have some logic after that return, it's not going to accept that code after it. It'll just return on the line above. So JavaScript is usually smart about adding semicolons, but sometimes it can get you.
Yeah. But if you go on to a team that works in JavaScript, 90%, like 95% sure they're going to require you to have semicolons. Just because they've worked, because back in the day it was required to have semicolons, like older JavaScript, like 4 or 5 years ago. So what is console log? What is this?
False.
False. Yep. So if I ran that, it'll be false, true, false. Great. So if I wanted to write, there's a couple of ways, again, I can write functions. So I can say function full name equals first name last name. And then I can return, let's go up here. Where did it go? Oh. First name, last name. And what are these called?
Arguments.
I'm sorry?
Arguments.
Close.
Parameters.
Parameters. Yep. So yeah, these are called parameters. What you pass into a function is called an argument. So I'm going to pass in an argument called first name. So, all right. So this is one way to write a function. There's also the fat arrow function. So const full name equals, param 1, parameter 2, and I can return param 2. So that's the fat arrow function. And let's see. Obviously, we have a bunch of if statements. So if true, do something else. So if else statements. There's else if statements. So else if 1 equals 2. So that's obviously will never be. Do something else. Else, which is the last statement. Do this last. And if 1 equals 1, yeah. Or if A equals B. So if else statements. We have a couple ways to do loops. So you obviously have to do a for loop for let I equal 0 or I equals whatever. I is less than something I plus plus. Then you can, perform or execute block of code here. So it's for loops. There's also the while loops. It's like while x is less than 100, execute block of code. Is there a way we can loop through an object?
Yes, you can do for, and then you declare a key and a value, or depending on what you want to achieve, and then you do object.entries or object value key. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple of ways you can do just for let key and employee. I can console log employee key. And if I run that, I can grab the values. So for let key and employee, you can also do object.keys, object.values. I think there's another one, object.entries. Yep. Cool. If I wanted to numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I wanted to add to the numbers array, like add 6, how do I go about doing that?
Dot push.
Numbers dot push. So if I wanted to push 6 to the numbers array and console log numbers, come down here. So push adds it to the array. If I want to add 0 to the front of the array, does anybody know? What is that?
Shift it.
Is it shift?
I think it's unshift.
Is it unshift? Let's see that. Let's see what it looks like. Whoop. Let's go there. Whoa. So yep, shift. If I wanted to remove 6 from it, how do I remove something from the end of the array?
Dot pop.
Do I need to pass anything in there?
Just close bracket or parens. Yeah.
Cool. All right. So if I do that, clear. So great. Now if I wanted to remove something from the front of the array,
That would be shift.
I do shift. Clear. What the hell? Cool. So here I pushed in 6, console logged 6, unshifted 0, so added 0 to the front of it. So 0 through 6, popped the last element off of the array. Now I'm at 0 through 5. And now I popped the first element of the array off. And now I'm just back to 1 through 5, which is my original array. Awesome. Does anybody have any questions? Just a quick review.
I do. I know there's the other way to do the function thing. Can you with the arrow? Can you show that?
The fat arrow functions.
Yeah.
So like this one. Like right here.
Yeah, I see it now.
So if I wanted to actually execute this, I'll just say like Tom read. I'm gonna console log it. Come down here. Run that. Uh-oh. Full name has already been declared. So the reason why it's already been declared is because this is const. So if I comment that out, there we go. All right.
Going forward, is that how we should write our functions from now on with that arrow function?
I would, but it's not required because you're going to see in the code in our challenges it written like this as well. But just know that there are 2 ways to write functions.
Do you have to always use const when you're using a fat arrow function declaration, or would you use like let or var, and why, if you know?
You would more often than not use const because that function should never change. So it's best practice is just to use const because that's a value that they'll never change.